John, I only bring you when it's very important stuff.
Dude, I'm excited to be back. Whenever you text, I'm like, let's do this.
You guys know who this guy is, the lead writer for The Wire. I'm with my boy John Crumpler. Follow him on Twitter. This dude is dropping heat almost every other couple days. Shout out to Mr. John. Look at his Twitter. Have your notifications on like he is for me. John, week one, it's finally here. How do you feel?
I'm excited, man. I feel a lot better than I did a year ago. I think that's something we would both agree on. I'm just excited to see this team. I feel like for as much as we know, there's as much that we don't know. We're going to see Pep Hamilton's offense for the first time. We're going to see how Lovie Smith calls a regular season game with his full cupboard of talent available for the first time for 4 quarters. I'm just pumped to see how they put it all together because we know the talent and we're pretty familiar with it at this point. But what the Texans have done a really good job at is shielding us from how exactly they want to use it. So I want to see how many targets does Nico Collins get? What percentage of snaps are they willing to give Damien Pierce? Where is Jalen Petrie lining up? Is Derek Stingley really going to go side to side and cover the number one wideouts? I'm pumped, man. What about yourself?
Man, I am pumped. We started this season with drama. It was where are we gonna send Deshaun? And once we were done with that, it was like, oh my gosh, you have the draft in a couple days. And then next thing you know, it's the preseason. This season has offseason has been nothing but interesting news for the Houston Texans. I am excited. Like you said, there is a lot of unknowns. It was a lot of vanilla in the first two preseason games for the Houston Texans. Didn't really see a lot from this offense. You spoke about the rookies. The Houston Texans are starting four, potentially five. And I think that just gives, big kudos to Nick Casario for putting this team together, evaluating young talent, and having four, potentially five. I say five because we don't know what's going to happen on, with Kenyon Green just yet. You said you think he starts, but man, I see the vision with these young guys.
Yeah, he might not start this week just out of respect for Justin McCray and the fact that he was there. But I'll be surprised if Green doesn't end up seeing over 50% of the snaps in this game. The guy that we saw in that last preseason contest against San Francisco, he was there. He was moving bodies. And that's what they say they want their offensive identity to be. And if you're going to be a run first team, you need Kenyon Green out there.
Not only that, Kenyon Green, he is going to be potentially blocking for maybe Dark Horse Rookie of the Year, Damien Pierce. He is everything we thought for. We've talked about him before. He was in a couple of our mock drafts where we were like,
Mhm.
he is going to be something, you never know. But to the extent of starting week one, shout out to Damien Pierce.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Damien Pierce is one of those guys when I would come and do mock drafts with you, and I would say, let's wait on a running back because we can get one later. And he was one of those guys, and it looks like a really special talent that just didn't get the opportunity that he probably deserved at the University of Florida under Dan Mullen. I know they're very excited about him in the building. At preseason and training camp, he looks explosive. He shows the contact balance and the cuts that the elite running backs in this league have. I'm excited to see it. Now, can the passing offense do enough to keep defenses honest? That might be a bigger question than Pierce, but I have no doubt in my mind that he's ready to go out and perform week one.
And not only that, the guy who will be creating holes for him, rookie fullback Troy Harrison. Shout out to him, defensive end, switching to fullback, and then our two top picks on defense, Derek Stingley, Jalen Petrie. I am excited for them. They get the start week one. I am ready for this defense, man, and these two young guys back there in the secondary.
Yeah, me too. I mean, one of my biggest complaints last year with the Texans, and you know me, I'm a big defensive
Mm.
back guy. I really value strong secondaries, especially as the league evolves to be more pass heavy. And this year, when you take Stingley number 3 and you get Jalen Petrie at 37, it's going to change the complexion of what Lovie Smith's going to be able to do. Stingley might travel with number one receivers. And even if he doesn't, that's the side of the field that we're not going to have to worry about. You put your second guy, Steven Nelson, who really they got at a bargain period of the free agency. You put him in really nice positions. And then Petrie, he's athletic enough to go play too high. He's a good enough tackler. Ruben, I think he could lead the Texans in tackles. with how I have some questions about how they play the run, but I have no questions about Petrie coming in to clean it up and then finding things at the second level as well. It's just going to make a world of difference for how they play defense.
Speaking of Jalen Petrie, after you wrote this article about, I believe, a month ago about Petrie and how he might be the leading tackler for this team, you made me go to Bovada and put $25 on Petrie to win
I think it's
Defensive
good
Rookie
money.
of the Year. You put in
I mean,
25, you win a rack.
I mean, it's a much better bet than I think Kyle Hamilton has 20 times better odds than him. And I don't get it. I'm like,
Nope.
what is Hamilton going to do on the Ravens with all the talent they have that Petrie and a bit of a talent vacuum in Houston is going to do here? I think that's a good bet. And I think, you know, overall, we'll see how the defense looks. But I think Petrie's individual performances and his numbers are going to be fabulous this season.
I am excited. Without further ado, week one is only a couple days away. Mr. John, what do the Houston Texans need to do on to pull out an upset? Because no one is expecting the Houston Texans to win at home. What do they need to do?
This is going to be a game that's won in the trenches, really. So the Indianapolis Colts have one of the best defensive tackle duos in the league. I want to say Grove. I'm blanking on, but it's DeForest Buckner, Grove, or something. They really killed us last year in terms of coming to the inside. So one, can Houston's revamped offensive line move them and run the ball consistently to keep the ball out of Indianapolis' hands? Because Indianapolis is an offense, they want to run the ball too. They've got the best running back in the league, this guy Jonathan Taylor. And that means they're not, if they when they have possessions, they're going to be long and they're not exactly going to score in a lot of explosive ways. So can Houston get their points and keep the ball away? And then on the other hand, this is Matt Ryan's first game with the Indianapolis Colts. Obviously, he's one of the better quarterbacks in the league just in terms of preparation and winning upstairs, but you can't make up for experience. Can they force some turnovers while he gets on the same page with Michael Pittman, with Alex Pierce, with Paris Campbell? If you can force turnovers and run the ball, like you say, and of course, it's cliche because that's how Lovie Smith says he wants to win. But this is one of those matchups where it will absolutely translate to, okay, you can win that way here.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I think this game is going to come down to, I think, the best running back in football, like you said, Jonathan Taylor. With Matt Ryan not being that mobile, he is 37 years old. I do think they might, put a little more emphasis on the runs. Do you trust this secondary to stay with guys like like Michael Pittman Jr., who had a fantastic year last year, and then tight ends Mo Ali Cox and like that? Do you trust this secondary to really stand up? If we just try to go after Matt Ryan and make him uncomfortable.
I actually think Pittman's a great first test for Derek Stingley because he's a guy that I don't think anyone would call Michael Pittman elite yet, but
Mm-hmm.
he's clearly very good and ready to take the next step with elevated quarterback play. I do think that getting Matt Ryan is huge for Pittman. He's a big bodied receiver. And really, that means you need to win by go up and get it often. You're not having as much separation. Carson Wentz wasn't very good at that. Carson Wentz kind of needs to throw into open lanes. Matt Ryan, though, he can throw you open. He can put it where it is. So I'll be very interested to see what Stingley can do there. Meanwhile, the rest of the offensive talent, Naheem Hines might be their third best
Mm-hmm.
offensive piece. It might go Jonathan Taylor, Michael Pittman, and another running back. So I think the secondary can keep up. And this is a good test in that way because it isn't one where you need the talent to keep up. It's going to be a preparation game because that's really how this Matt Ryan led offense is going to beat you. So do you have run discipline on Taylor? Can you keep the offense honest on how often they're going to go into play action and their need to? And can you force them into obvious passing downs where you can pin your ears back, let Jerry Hughes and Jonathan Grenard get after Matt Ryan, make him uncomfortable, and see if Stingley, Nelson Petrie, Jonathan Owens, very excited to see him start. If they can make a play and turn the ball over.
Yeah, excited for him, and he's been battling trying to make the 53 man roster for years.
I'm so
Finally
happy.
makes it. Yes, switching to the offense. I think the key for me is Nico Collins, and I say that because Brandon Cooks is going to be going against Stephon Gilmore, who is one of the best cornerbacks still in the NFL.
Absolutely.
Collins, he had a good training camp. He was a mismatch during the preseason game. I think the fact that he was able to, get many defensive pass interference called for him, that's going to add so much with the Houston Texans offense. He's 6'4". I think Rock Yasim is their second corner, and he's five, like 5'11". We didn't utilize Nico's height and speed last year. I think he might have a solid game one.
Yeah, and I mean, just another matchup to point out. Indianapolis' second best cornerback might be Kenny Moore, is one of the
Hmm.
best slot corners, the nickel cornerback in the league. So if a guy like Tyler Johnson or Philip Dorsett, the third wide receiver on the team, comes out and has a big game, that's something I'm going to be really excited about because it means more against this team than it does against others. I agree. Collins is going to be a fascinating matchup to watch just because everyone knows when you play Houston, you have to account for Brandon Cooks. He's a talent. I mean, you were at training camp as well. It's a different level than the rest of the roster, and teams are going to game plan for that. Can Collins take advantage of the gravity that goes towards Brandon Cooks? And I wrote a lot about that in my season preview, and I think it'll be true here. And we'll see pretty quickly, does that chemistry that when I got to speak to Davis Mills this offseason, he talked about how close that class is. We saw it on the field with the balls he was throwing Collins in the preseason while Cooks was out. Can he do it in a real game?
That just remains to be seen. How do you feel about Tyler Johnson and OJ Howard during the squad? I like it. I think a lot of potential with both guys, right? One being 24, Tyler Johnson. OJ is 27, but we know tight ends can last into the late 30s. We're giving these guys a chance. This is going to be their best chance to get some PT, and low risk, high reward for me with both those guys.
Yeah, I love the signings. For Tyler Johnson, I think he's as talented as anyone after Cooks and Collins on the roster. He's never had a huge opportunity, and there isn't a better place to have that than here. I don't think he brings the skill that the skill set, and that Philip Dorsett's really fast. So he's going to open up the offense in ways that maybe Tyler can't, just in terms of how you're going to force your safeties to adjust. The corner that's with Dorsett, kind of in the back of your mind, the defense is going to be thinking we don't want to get beat deep by him. But Johnson can play all three of the wide receiver spots, and this is a great opportunity for him. I would like, especially compared to, I like Chris Moore, but I'd rather roll the dice on Tyler Johnson, see what we might have there, because I think Moore is a bit more of a known commodity. Meanwhile, OJ Howard, this is someone I've been pounding the table for us to sign since February. Obviously, it didn't work out in Buffalo, and I am a little concerned that Buffalo was so willing to move on from his guaranteed money. But additionally, I think Howard's strengths mesh really well with what this team wants from their tight end group. And by that, I mean he blocks really well. This is an offense that's going to ask their tight ends to block a lot. He isn't ready to be one of the primary receiving options in an offense, but this isn't an offense that's going to ask the tight ends to be primary. You might come after Cooks is the first read, Collins is the second, Pierce is the ideal dump off. Okay, and then if all of that is covered, Mills looks, Howard's there in the soft spot. He's got fine hands. So I'm really excited to see both of those guys and curious how quickly they get on the field for week one.
Yeah, I think we might see OJ like a little bit more because Farrell Brown been injured. Brevin Jordan, a case of the drop ball syndrome the past couple games. Apparently, it's had it in training camp. Gun to your head, John. What is the final score this Sunday?
I will go uh, 24-31 Indianapolis. So I'll say that the Texans cover the 8.5 point spread. But I still think this is a team where the talent deficit just, we're not quite there yet to beat Indy. I'm higher on Indy than most. I know their Vegas win total is 9.5. I would bet the over on that. I love Matt Ryan for the way they're trying to win games. But this is a winnable one. I don't understand why the spread's over a touchdown. I think this could be similar to the Tennessee game from last season that we ultimately lost, but what we saw is in the second half and even late into the first half, as the offense kind of got desperate and opened it up, and Mills started to get comfortable. They snuck back into the game, so maybe a backdoor cover situation from the Texans. I just need to see it all put together first because if we're going to be fair, the only real NFL quarterback we've seen this year's defense play was Andy Dalton in week one, and he shredded them on his one
Yeah.
drive. So I think it's going to be a good defense. I think it's going to be an improved defense. I don't think Indianapolis is where we get our first win. What do you think?
I'm going to say a very competitive loss, 28-21. Just like you said, you have to give props to the better teams. And right now, Indianapolis is that better team. They got Matt Ryan for a reason because they think he could potentially get them into the playoffs and deep into the playoffs. I agree with you. but they haven't won, I think, a season opener since they beat the Raiders. So it's been
It's
almost
been
9 years. Oh, 8 years,
7 years, 7 or 8 years. I saw
Yeah.
the same Fox graphic that I'm sure you're talking about.
Yeah. That was absolutely crazy. However, I'm just happy that football's back. We are gonna see the potential vision of Nick Casario take the stage in Week 1. John, it was a pleasure. We're gonna ramp up the season. Let everyone know what you got going on, man.
Absolutely. So you guys can follow me at John H. Crumpler. I do my best covering the team with their transactions, where they are in the media, and my own thoughts. I care a lot about them. I think I cover them as well as anyone that's. And make sure you're also following at the Texans Wire. You can read all of my work there as well as my colleagues, Brian Bearfield, Jordan Pun, Mark Lane, and also give my season preview a read. I'm really proud of it. Put a lot of effort. Ruben and a lot of other guys helped me write it. So we're excited about this season.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Let me know what you fans think about this upcoming game. As always, go Texans. Y'all have a very, very blessed day.